Hey everybody, top of the muffin to you today. Mark Price here at devslopes.com, and today we are going to learn about functions. Open up your Xcode 8 and create a new playground. My playground, we're going to call this Uptown Function You Up. And I'm going to save this. Where am I going to save this? iOS 10 course and Swift and new folder functions. You can save yours wherever you want. Okay, so a function is a core component in programming, core building block, a building block in building functional applications that can actually do things. Okay, so here's a perfect example of why we need to use a function. Let's say that I want to get the area of a shape, a rectangle or square. Okay, so say var length equals 5, var width equals, let's say 10, and then var area equals length times width. Now you've probably done something similar to this, wrote some variables, did some math operation. We now have the area, right? Well, this is cool. Maybe you don't see what's wrong with this. Well, let's do this now. Now we have a new shape. So this was shape number 1, right? Oh no, we've got a new shape now. Okay, it's another rectangle with a different size. So now we're gonna say var, okay, length 2 equals 6, var width 2 equals 12, and var area 2 equals length 2 times width 2. Okay, well that's not so bad. So this is shape 2. But oh no, now our program requires a third shape, shape 3. And if you're asking me, is he really gonna type this out again? The answer is yes, because I want you to see the brutal pain of not working with functions. So var length 3 equals 3, var width 3 equals 8, and var area 3 equals length 3 times width 3. Okay? This is lame. This is really lame. And anybody who's programming can probably realize that this is not the best way. You don't have to be an advanced programmer to realize something smells wrong. This is called a code smell. A code smell is when something looks or smells wrong with your code. You maybe don't know what it is, but it just doesn't feel right. Well, this violates a principle. It violates the dry principle, which means don't repeat yourself. And we are definitely repeating ourselves here. So this is how functions can come in handy. Functions are a way to perform an operation over and over. You can pass data into it, return things. In fact, let's see what our handy dandy internet says about functions. Define function in programming. In computer science, functional programming is a programming paradigm, a style of building the structure and elements of computer program that treats computation as the evaluation of mathematical functions and avoids changing state and mutable data. So this is functional programming. It's not functions in general, but there actually is some merit to functional programming. Functional programming basically means you want to create functions that can repeat operations in a mathematical sense and don't do a whole bunch of things and manipulate all kinds of data. They do one thing and they do it well. And so that's kind of how you should be designing functions anyway. But that's not exactly what we're looking for. Let's go over to Wikipedia. And if you're wondering, why does Mark Price always pull up documentation, always go to these things? Because you should not be just copying and pasting code. I'm going to teach you how to become a programmer. And programmers, the good programmers, always learn. They read the documentation, they go underneath the hood, and that's what we're going to do here. And if you don't like it, just put me on 2x speed and you can listen to me talk really fast, just like this. Okay, so let's type in a function. Okay, and this is a good one too. A function is a relation between a set of inputs and a set of permissible outputs with the property that each input is related to exactly one output. It's really cool how just the word function, it translates into different things in math, but it all is very similar. Look at this diagram right here. A function takes input, and it can also provide output. It doesn't always have to, though. And it's going to be the same thing in programming. And I would encourage you to do some more searches on functional math, functional programming. What is a function? To really get an idea of what's going on. And I'm going to show you hands-on now, though. Okay, we've just took a glance at some of the things that are on the internet. It's always fun to do that, to start educating yourself. And so what I want you to do is create a function, just like I'm going to do. Func is how you do it in Swift, okay? And we're going to call this calculate area. Okay, so we have a function, and it's going to do something. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in 2 parameters, and we're going to say length of type, this can just be an int, and width of type int. So this is the input, just like in that diagram that you saw where something can go into the function, then it does something and something can come out. We're actually going to do that exact same thing here, okay? Very similar to what you might do in some paper math. And length and width. And so what's going to happen is we're going to pass in a length and pass in a width. It's going to calculate it and it's going to return it. It's going to give us back a value. So this is the syntax for a function. You start off with the func keyword, okay? And then you give it a name. And then you create parentheses, okay? You don't have to have parameters in. It can be, okay. It is just not doing what I want it to do. You don't have to have parentheses or stuff in the parentheses. It can be empty like that. But good programming or the functional programming that you want to start gravitating towards takes inputs and returns output without necessarily modifying what you would call your variables or your properties. And if this doesn't make any sense just yet, that's absolutely fine, because when you watch this video again, which you probably should, it'll start making more sense. So we're going to pass in a length, pass in a width. These are parameters, which means you can put things in them. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a dash and then a greater than sign, kind of like an arrow, right? This is what you're going to return. What data type do we want to return? Well, we want to return an int. Okay? We're going to say let, so we're going to create a constant. Area equals length times width. Now that's just a simple math operation, right? Length times width. But then what we're going to do is we're going to return the area. So what does this all mean? Okay, what's going on here? Well, you don't know because we haven't put it into action yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to say var, actually we'll say let area equals calculate area. So we're going to call our function. Notice how it's appearing here on the autocomplete. It is appearing, it's blue, it has our parameters in it. This is great. So we're going to say calculate area, and we're going to pass in a length and a width. So let's say 5 and the width is 4. Okay. Calculate area with 5 and 4. Oh, and we already have an area, don't we? So it doesn't like that because we already have an area. I'm going to call this new area. Okay. So let new area, calculate area, and look at this, 20. It's giving us the proper result. Well, what is happening here? What is going on? Well, let's see if I can show you. So we're calling a function and we're passing in a 5. So the second that we pass in a 5, it's taking that and dropping it here in this bucket and calling it length. So it's taking this value and putting it in a new variable called length. Actually, this is a constant. You can't change these values, okay? Once they're set in there. And then it's taking this one and it's passing it in here and giving it a name. So the values you pass in, it gives it a new name. It puts it in a new constant that you can use inside of your function. And then we take the length and the width, and it performs a math operation and stores the result here in this constant. And then using the return keyword, okay, we actually return something. So what happens is this is called and then goes right into here. Okay, so we pass in the length, we pass in the width, it performs an operation here, and then it returns that operation, or the value of that operation, it returns it here into our variable. So now we can use that. And this is really, really cool. And why is this cool? Because we don't have to write all this crazy code now, okay? The more you have to write code, the more chances you have of screwing up. So what if I was writing this third area here and I accidentally did a minus sign? Well, that's no longer the area, is it? I just broke our code because I wasn't paying attention. Maybe I sneezed, whatever. I had to write more code, and it created more possibilities for mistakes. So now, if I want to get 3 different shapes, in fact, let's just call this shape 1, okay? let shape2, we can just now call the function, and all the code inside, the program just crashed, but all the code inside, you don't ever have to write again. And that's the beauty of functions. Open recent. There we go. So calculate area. And this time we're going to say 6 and 2. Okay. Cool stuff. So now we've only written the code once inside, and it's being used multiple times. So you're already starting to see the value of a function. It lets you take input, perform operations, mathematical or other operations on that input, and returning the result of that so somebody can use it. And this is a nice clean function. And if we really want to clean things up and save some space, we don't even have to store this in a constant like this. We can actually just say return length times width, like so, and it's going to perform the operation, and then it's going to return it automatically. And so we don't have to change anything else over here. We just cleaned up a little bit of code. And this is more common for simple operations. If you have multiple multi-line operations you have to do, then of course store it in the constant like we had before. So again, you take values, you pass it into these parameters here. Also, that's a keyword, okay? Write this down. If you're new to programming, write this down. These are parameters, also known as arguments. Sometimes people use those terms interchangeably. Also, another thing to write down, functions are called functions in some languages and methods in other languages. Okay, very important. You might write that keyword down as well too. Over here on the right-hand side is the return statement, and excuse me, not return statement, the return type. Okay, this is where you specify the return type, and this is the type here, dash greater than sign, like an arrow. And then if you are returning something, you must use the return keyword to return a value of that type. Notice how we couldn't return a string if we wanted to. I couldn't say, hey you. Let's try that. Cannot convert return expression of type string to return type int. It must be an integer. Okay? This is no bueno. No good. Okay? And so we've already saved ourselves some errors by using a function here, which is pretty cool. And you've just learned really the core features of a function, what you would use it for. And these are used for everything. Anything you can think of. For instance, let's talk about bank accounts. So let's say var, we'll say bank account balance equals 500, 00, which is a double. Okay. And then what we do is we say var, what do we want to buy? Something cool. So, oh yeah, so the other day, get this. The other day, Reebok announces the release of, the Alien Stomper shoes. The shoes that Sigourney Weaver wore in the Aliens movie, okay? And also the android wore them too. 30 years later, they're re-releasing the shoes, right? I was all excited, ready for it. Went on to the website the second it went live, and then guess what happened? Because there was only 2,000 shoes. A bunch of nerds, and that should have been me, because I'm a nerd. A bunch of nerds with their bots bought up every shoe and then sold them on eBay for like 10 times the amount of money. That's all irrelevant. So my point is, that's what we're going to buy today. We're going to buy Sigourney Weaver Alien Stomper shoes. Okay, equals $350 now. Sheesh. Okay, so we want to buy these items, right? So, we could write out some logic here that says, if you have enough money, buy the shoes and then do another item. But what if we had a function that could just purchase an item? Okay, so let's do that now. Func, we're going to say purchase item. Okay, and what we're going to do, purchase item, we're going to pass in the current balance of type double and the item price of type double. Okay, and I'll come back to the return statement later. And what we're going to do is say if item price is less than or equal to current balance. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. What we're going to do is we're going to return the new balance that you have because you just purchased the items. Maybe we'll print something too, just for fun. But anyway, this is generic. It doesn't matter if it's Sigourney Weaver's Alien Stomper Shoes or if it's, Teletubbies limited edition lunch pail box, okay, from 1998. And anyway, if item price is less than or equal to current balance, you guys are like, do you even hear the words that come out of your mouth, Mark? No, the answer is no. I just say whatever's there. So now what we can do is return, if the item price is less than or equal to current balance, we can return current balance minus item price. Okay, let's return the new balance. Okay, and then let's make a return statement. And we're going to make this of type double. Okay, like so. And then what we'll do is we're going to say, if you can't, so if it's not less than or equal to, then we're going to just return the current balance as it is. Okay. And what we can do here is say print purchased item for, and we can use string interpolation, which is a keyword you should have memorized. Purchased item for item price. And we can even put a little $sign in front of it. That's kind of cool, like that. And otherwise here, you are broke. You should learn how to save money. Okay? And so this is cool. Now what we can do is we can call that function. We can say purchase item. So purchase item. And we can pass in the, there it is. It wants our current balance, so we're going to pass in bank account balance, and then it also wants the price of the item. So this is Sigourney Weaver's Alien Stomper Shoes, okay. And so, it's going to also return to us a current balance. So now we can say let new balance equals, not to be confused with the shoe New Balance, because clearly we're buying Reebok. So purchased item for $350, and notice how the balance has now changed. So now we're being smart. We're working with functions. We're putting in input. It's returning things, and now that's our new balance right there. Or what we could have done is instead of just saying new balance, we could have just said bank account balance. We can overwrite it now equals purchase item, and then it again, remember, this is returning something. Okay. Let me just show you again in case you forgot. So this return statement right here is returning a value, and that's coming in right here. Boom. Okay. Also keep in mind, whenever you call return, that is the end. That is the end of that function. Nothing else will be called after return. So if it gets here, nothing else is going to be called after it. So if I write code here, like a print statement, hello nurse, right? That is never, ever going to be called. And it even gives me a warning. Code after return will never be executed. Okay? Return statements end your function. Okay? So now we're being smart, and so now we can buy whatever we want. We could say var, retro lunchbox, equals, $40, right? So now all we have to do is say bank account balance equals purchase item, pass in the current bank account balance, and then the item price is, the retro lunchbox, and boom. Okay, our bank account balance has now been updated, and it's $110, and we bought our item. See how it's reusing the code? We didn't have to rewrite things over and over and over again. That is the beauty of working with functions. Okay. Now, one more thing I want to show you. This is a little more on the advanced side, but I think it'd be good to know, is that, how I said these are constants, right? You cannot modify these values. For instance, I cannot say current balance equals 0. Let's see what happens if I do that. It yells at us. Cannot assign a value to current balance is a let or constant. Well, what if, and I may not recommend doing it for this specific function, but what if I didn't want to pass in the current balance? Okay. What if I didn't want to return the new balance? Because it just sounds silly. I'm purchasing that item. Why are you giving me the new balance? That seems a little bit silly. So what we can do is remove the return statement. Okay, so instead of returning this here and returning this here, what we can do is we can use a keyword here called inout. Okay, current balance inout. What it's going to do is it's actually going to modify the original variable. Okay, I'm going to get rid of these two because we don't need to assign a new value anywhere. Okay, purchase item, and we'll come back to those in a second. So we can use the inout keyword, which will allow us to modify the bank account balance directly, which is kind of cool. Now, you want to use this sparingly, but I'm just showing you can use this. And so what we can do is we can put the same math we had before, except just adjust the existing parameter here. Remember how it was a constant, we couldn't change it, but now we can. And that's done by putting the inout before the type right there. So now we can say current balance equals current balance minus item price. Okay? And so it allows us to modify the variable directly. Pretty awesome, right? Then right here, we don't have to do anything except print. We don't have to return anything. This is great. And then over here, we can redo our function. So purchase item. And what we're going to do is we're going to pass in the bank account balance, or the bank account balance. Current balance is, what is going on here? No, silly. It's being silly. Bank account balance. And item price is going to be the Sigourney Weaver shoes, right? Pretty cool, right? And so all you do is you put that ampersand symbol here when you're doing it inout. Okay, put the ampersand symbol before the variable you pass in, and that lets you modify the variable directly. So we didn't even have to return anything. So it just, whatever you put in here, it modifies this directly. Okay, again, there's use cases for it. I don't recommend using this all the time, but I wanted to show you that it's in your tool belt of things that you can do. And otherwise, you probably want to go back to the way we had it, which is just fine. And that's functions. Creating something that's reusable, that performs an operation over and over again. It's something that you're going to use every single day. And it's going to take a while to get these down. I know that, especially if you're new to programming, and it's fine. Just keep practicing. You'll get better with it. And that's it. Functions. I'm trying to think of anything else I could say about it, but that's it. 99.9% of everything you'll do every single day, we just did. So that's it. Mark Price at devslopes.com. See you next time.